Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, Ursula, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Good to see you again. Glad to have
Yes,
you
good
back
to
on the
see you
show.
again. Yeah, I'm happy about that as well.
I know it's been a long time coming, but it's great. It's great to be back. So this is awesome. What did you? Is there anything particular you want to talk about, or should we just riff?
I think we were thinking about talking about the dangers of ChatGTP.
Yes,
Of course,
exactly.
yeah, but yeah, I think it's still a good topic. I know that everyone is talking about ChatGTP now, so
Exactly.
it's not really new, but maybe I have some interesting perspectives on the
Oh, no.
dangers
I
I can
This
bring.
is not something that's going to go away anytime soon. So there's still very,
Yeah,
very
that's right.
relevant to talk about
That's
it.
right.
Did I tell
Yes.
you what I'm doing with it lately?
No.
So, so I don't know if you've noticed, but some of my I'm asking it to write my show descriptions. I had it
Oh, yes.
rewrite my LinkedIn about section,
Uh-huh. Hmm.
and I'm also having it assist me on I'm writing a new science fiction novel, which is a time traveling science fiction novel, and I'm using it to research the
Oh,
novel. So
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
it's much easier to
Yes.
go to that than it is to go to Google. So say for example, one of the settings is in the past. It's in the city of Ur, in the
Mm.
Sumerian city of Ur. And I'm like, can you describe it? And it writes all this great prose about, what it's like, what
Mm,
our people are
mm,
wearing, what it sounds like, what it
mm,
smells like, all that. And I can use all of that in my writing. And I thought, wow, this is great. This is like it. I mean, I remember after having a session with it, I went downstairs and I was talking to my wife about it. And she goes, wow, it sounds like you found a new friend.
Yes, I also think it's very useful for writing.
Hmm.
For me, I have a published column. It's called Code Red, but
Hmm.
it's published in German. And I
Hmm.
know that I'm a good writer in German. I used to work as a ghostwriter for big CEOs, and I'm never really satisfied with the English version then when I write it. So this really is actually a very useful tool, because you can say, okay, now rewrite this in New York Times style, or
Hmm. Oh yeah.
um,
It's beautiful.
but I also must say that I have a very specific point of view on various topics on
Hmm.
technology, and there are the limitations of ChatGTP. It's actually not so useful really to have it written by ChatGTP, because it alters my content.
Yep, exactly. No, I have had that exact same thing happen to me because
Mm,
unless you give it really strict parameters, and even when you
mm.
give it really strict parameters, it will go outside of those parameters and
Yes,
put stuff
and
in there that you're
invent,
like, this is not what I
hallucinate.
want.
Hallucinate. I think they call it hallucinating about something, and it's really the case. Like, and once I was like, no, that's wrong, and ChatGPT is like, okay, excuse me, how can I improve?
I
Well,
know.
you maybe I didn't try that, but maybe a good prompt is to write, please rewrite that in New York Times style, but don't alter the content. Maybe
Yeah.
that works. I didn't try it
I've
yet.
tried a couple of times. So I've asked it to
Mm,
write
mm,
titles of blog
mm,
posts,
mm.
and then when I ask it to write the blog post, it just goes off in all sorts of weird directions. And I have to keep telling it. It's like rewrite it like this, rewrite it like this. So it's almost like you really have to teach it how you want
Yes,
it.
yes.
And then eventually
Mm,
it got to something that was almost like what I wanted, but again, it was just a draft, and I had to go in and
mm.
change it around. So
Yeah,
I don't think people have to be really concerned that it's going to take away people's jobs,
that's right.
because it still needs a lot of direction, right?
Absolutely. And we used it, for example, and I think that's a very good application to write a research proposal for a
Hmm.
research grant, because you always have so many parts, like, and now you need a data management plan. So, okay,
Yeah.
ChatGPT is very good in this task. And I think by default, because these are robotic tasks.
Hmm.
So of course the robot can do it better than you can, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but of course you always have to rewrite it. You have to have a look at it. So I'm not even sure if it takes me less time.
Mm.
because you always have to check it and rewrite it and then rewrite it again. So I would also say it will not take away humans' jobs. It's just you can use it, I think, for these kind of robotic systems. Why not? Why not write a report? Why not write a proposal with ChatGPT? But for original thoughts, it's not so useful. And also not for critical thinking. So I would say something about that, what I think about that.
Yeah, that's
and
impossible
also,
for critical thinking. You're absolutely right there.
Yeah, it's totally impossible. But it's I think that wouldn't be a problem if people just question everything. Like you say, you look at it and no, that's not it, and rewrite it and rewrite it. I think the real danger is when really young people who should learn how to write. And I think it's really a crucial thing. For example, last semester, first time I started to ask my students to also write a column. I teach strategic communication and digital branding. And I asked them to write a column, which means an opinion piece. It's not factual, it's an opinion piece. It's your opinion, and then put it out, put it on a forum. We had a platform, a private platform for that. And all the other students can discuss with you on your opinion. And as everyone was in the same boat, they were very polite in the discussion, which is usually not the case on the internet. So it was a very good culture. And I think they had a lot of fun. And I explained to them, it's so important that you are able to write your thoughts out. And I think that's a critical skill, because no matter what you do, if you write a storyline for your podcast or for a video, you have to write the story down. Otherwise, it will not be a good story. And now, of course, we can argue like 60 seconds, not even 15 seconds TikTok videos. Do they really need a story? And not all of them, of course, but is that really the future? I think
the best ones, I think the best ones do require that kind of structure, because a lot of times you can watch some of these that are just off the cuff. I just happen to record something. If something interesting happens to be happening, right? But if it's not something interesting, that's happening, you've got to put it together. You have to create the story, and that requires, the ability to write a story or tell a story.
Yes. So I think that's a really crucial skill. And I'm really happy that I learned that in a very professional way. As I told you, I worked as a PR agent and also a ghostwriter, and I can write in my sleep. But but
how do you do that? Do you have like a tool that like attaches to your head and as you're dreaming?
Yes, it's called alarm clock. Get up and write.
Nice. But what's I find really interesting is that we were able to. So I had some friends of mine were playing around with it, and we thought, how can we get it to do something like totally out of the box? Right. So somebody said, ask me 5 impossible questions. Right. And it actually came up with some really interesting questions. And one of them was, what if a sentient time traveling toaster went back in time and started making toast for dinosaurs? And I thought, well, that's interesting. I've never, that was like a out of the wall, right?
Do
then
dinosaurs eat toast?
I don't know. I mean, and then I said, okay, well, that sounds interesting. Why don't you write a short story based on that topic? And it wrote a story about a time traveling toaster. It went back in time, and it tried to make toast for dinosaurs, but first it had to find a power source to figure out how to cook the toast. And then okay. I mean, obviously there was no bread, so it had to create bread, but for some reason it was available. So it's like logical leaps.
That was my question. So how would bread be available?
Exactly.
You first have to go through the agricultural phase where you grow crops.
Exactly.
You have to harvest it. You have to find out. There are a lot of steps.
And then in the end, the dinosaurs got addicted to the toast, and they started eating toast all the time. And then because they got sick on the toast, they died out.
They don't think of subtitles. Yeah, that maybe will happen to humans too.
So I'm like, okay, that's a nice story, but it's so many logical leaps of faith there that that's why I think you're right. Hallucination is a good term for it, because
Yes.
as I'm working with it, it's like when I first started working with it, I was really excited about it because I thought, well, this is fun, doing this riffing around. But then I had to correct it so often. I thought, well, this is like, talking to a kid that has forgotten what I just said like 5 minutes ago. And
exactly. I told you so.
It's like, remember that character? He's like, or remember this device? It's supposed to be, oh yeah, sorry, blah, 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 blah. And like, it's almost like you said, you know what it reminds me of? If dictation software.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've ever used dictation software.
Yes.
But every time I tried it, I would say, okay, I'm going to try it again because it must have gotten better. And it didn't get better. And every time I used dictation software, I thought, this thing, I have to spend so much time rewriting it. I may as well just type it all out myself.
Exactly.
So it's kind of in that spot now where it almost feels like there's more work involved in managing it than it is actually just writing it myself.
Exactly.
So,
exactly. Yeah. I found that out as well.
It's like most of this technology, it looks great on the surface, but once you dig deeper into it, it's like it just doesn't do it.
And also when you dive to the bottom of the technology, what is it? It is a huge language model. So all these talks about, it's like it's your new friend, I know. So but but this, it's now sentient. It's a huge language model, and it finds suitable answers. So it's it doesn't impress me so much because it's it's a useful tool. I think this rewriting really solved the problem for me. Then it didn't, but but as I said, for really critical thinking, it's not very suitable. I also think not for creativity and innovation, but as a language tool. You use it as a language tool, I use it as a language tool, and as I love language, I like new tools. As I started, my first major was sinology, and I'm a translator.
Sinology, what's that?
Sinology. I'm a translator for Mandarin Chinese.
Oh, cool.
And in the Chinese language, we had, of course, maybe there are 50,000 characters, and of course
I knew it was a really large number, but
I know about 5,000 is really good. So in average, school children are like 2,000, 3,000, and then it goes up, and the more, as I did research, it's more like 5,000. So but in of course you don't have a keyboard with 50,000 characters, right?
Right.
So there were always systems in place how you can type that in with a system, and also there was semantics very early. What we had in other languages, like this, also like ChatGPT uses a lot of semantics. Like you have to, this is this word, and it could go together with that word, and etc. It's advanced semantics, but this was already in place in the year 2000. They already had this working. It worked really good. The semantic. It was always trying to complete your sentences, but it was really good.
Oh, that's good. Well, here's a question for you. So I thought, since it's sort of isn't it sort of a reflection of us, though? Isn't it like talking to it is talking to a reflection of humanity? I mean, obviously it's a small set, but as it grows to 4, 5, 6, 7, and bigger, and is supposedly exponential, it gets more and more like a mirror on humanity. So isn't talking to it like talking to sort of like a subset of humanity?
It could be. Like if we integrate,
if humanity is hallucinating, then
well, yes, like for example, what I think is really dangerous is like I think Portugal has announced they will be the first country to use it in their justice system. And I don't think that's a good idea. And I think if politicians use it as now we have our AI consultant and the system said, and now we decide you're guilty, that's really dangerous. And also as a government consultant, for me, that's like asking the Oracle of Delphi by
Yeah.
worshipping the cult of Apollo. And what were they doing? I mean, you
Yeah.
had this
It's about as
virgin there
scientific.
under the influence, and she was hallucinating about things. That's basically it.
Yeah, that's
And
basically it. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. But
that's
I
basically
think
it.
you're also right. There's like a certain minimal set of things that it can do okay. And that's the
Mm.
robotic
Yeah,
stuff that you were talking
of
about.
course.
But anything beyond that, it's just not out of it. But do you think we'll actually get there though? Do you think that at some point, I mean, I think this is the thing that's freaking people out. It's like right now, like we said, it's like on the surface, it looks interesting. Underneath, it's not as good. But we're always thinking about, whoa, what's next and what's next and what's next and what's going to happen like 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Is this going to eventually kind of replace us, or do you think it still is not going to be there yet?
I don't think it's a question of replacement,
Mm,
because there are attributes to humans, like the AI cannot hug you, right?
yeah.
It cannot physically touch you. So there will always be things for humans, and also our humanity may save us from that.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
my advice to people who are very concerned and who want to future-proof or ChatGPT-proof their jobs, I would recommend don't be a robot.
Mm.
Why do I say that? Because I work a lot with governmental organizations, with funding agencies. They are acting like robots.
Oh yeah.
So yes, I would also be afraid because the robot is better in being a robot. You are better in being a human. So try
Exactly.
being a human being, try to communicate in a human way, and then your job will be future-proofed.
Yeah.
As we saw, okay, it's and usually the people who develop that always I know a lot of AI experts, and they say the goal is never to replace a human being. It was always to support the human being. And to the question, is it possible that it is more, let's say, independent? Yes, it will be more and more independent. And of course, AI experts always come to the question, can it be conscious, right?
Mm.
Then, of course, you have to think about what is consciousness.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there are different theories. But for example, in the Japanese culture, they believe everything has consciousness.
That's
So
right.
maybe that's also the reason why they use robots more often than we do, and also humanoid robots, which are really creepy, I think. But
You heard about that
that's really,
hotel that's all of the robots are like dinosaurs
oh, that's
in
in
Japan?
China.
Oh, it's in China. Oh, okay. I
That's in
thought that
China.
was
That's the
Japanese.
Alibaba Fly Zoo Hotel. Yeah. I mean, then you have a robot barkeeper, but I think it misses the point, because the barkeeper is also your psychologist and your friend for the night. And
That's right.
so if you only have this creepy hand, I don't think it works.
Well, you can talk to it,
But
but it's not going to talk back very well.
it can talk, even if it does, right? You
Yeah.
maybe get the impression. And I think the Japanese, I think it's interesting to think maybe everything has consciousness.
Hmm.
And if you believe that, well, then it's not such a big deal, because then your cell phone has consciousness, your computer has consciousness, your table has consciousness. So what's the big deal
Well,
about?
you have to treat them better then, if that's the case.
Exactly. You're exactly right. That's the
You have to
logical consequence.
respect it.
Yes, treat it better. And when I heard this first, because of course people say everything has consciousness, then say you should treat your cell phone, your computer well. And I was like, oh, good, I'm safe. I treated my
Well, it's kind
technical
of like
devices.
Marie Kondo, right? Where when she's getting rid of stuff, she thanks the material item for helping it, but
Yeah, yes.
helping her. But there's one thing you mentioned earlier I thought that was interesting. But you're right about the human beings acting like robots, because
Mm,
there's
mm,
something I always say is that we're going to lose jobs to AI. There's no doubt about it. But the
mm.
problem, the kind of jobs that we're going to lose are the ones that are better done by machine anyway. So if a
Exactly.
human was
Exactly.
doing it, then they should
It's
be
waste.
happy losing that job so they can go do
Exactly.
something more human.
Yeah. I a while ago I wrote a column. It was called "Robots Are Stealing Our Jobs." Well, that's what they're supposed to do.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I described exactly that then you have more time for creativity. And of course, some experts say, well, people also need some routine work, and that, yes, but you can still do that. If you like it, you can still do that. If you if you have a fetish to type in things in an Excel sheet, go ahead.
It's mindfulness, right? I'm being mindful by shoveling or something like that.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Like carry wood.
Yeah.
Chop wood, carry water.
That's right.
Like
That's right.
Yes,
sweeping, that's the first thing you do at the temple, right? When you go to a Buddhist temple, they go, here you go. When are we going to start doing start sweeping. Come on.
Yes. Exactly. So I think it's not, as I'm coming from PR and media relations, I think it's hyped too much in the media. And as I did that a lot, you could say I was a media manipulator, but I did it in a good way, of course. Not
of course, only for good.
Only for good. And that is very useful if you know how the media mechanisms work. And usually you can sell good stories to a journalist, but you also have to look at how do they make money. And now all the online businesses, they make money by clicks. What does that mean? I need some sensational story. So
can I use ChatGPT to create my press releases, and will they be picked up if I use it?
I haven't tried it yet.
No,
I don't know. But it's definitely worth a try. Yeah, you could.
Well, this guy, there's actually a newsletter now called Prompts Daily, and they send you a new prompt for AI.
Yes,
I can send you a link to it. But it's interesting because some people are starting to put prompt engineer as their job title in LinkedIn. It's like, because you have to engineer the prompt correctly so that you get the response that you're looking for. So it's almost a skill like coding.
Yes, it is.
It's a coding skill.
Yes, find the right prompt, and that's not trivial. And so you have to find a way how you want to use it, and then use it the right way. I think for my taste, the bias is too much in ChatGPT.
You're right.
And it's also not transparent. That's, I think, every time, for example, when you write something like a research proposal, of course you need sources. You cannot write it without sources. So every time you ask ChatGPT, where did you find that? It's like, I'm looking on no, it does not say I'm looking on the internet. It's more like my database reaches back to the year 2021. That's not what I wanted to know. I need the
where's the source?
And it doesn't give you the source.
Oh, have you asked for sources? Have you asked for sources? I haven't even done that. I should probably do that. Try that.
Yes, because I needed the sources. So of course I had it write like a short description of my company, and I said, what is RedSwan? What are we doing? And it was not very good. And it was like, we are in the pharma industry. And I was like, no, we are not. And I asked, how do you come to the impression that we are in the pharma industry? Where did you get this information? Because it would be interesting to know that, how they came to this conclusion. And then it's like, oh, maybe I made a mistake here. Tell me where
well, that's the thing. That's the other thing. Mistakes, right? I mean, everybody is so like, they're all looking at Skynet and all these movie versions of AI and thinking, oh, these things don't make mistakes. These things don't. And I'm like, are you kidding? If it's anything, if this thing is based on us, it's going to make as many mistakes as human beings do. And in fact, more, because it doesn't know as much as we do. It doesn't have the same kind of intuitive sense of what's correct. So
exactly.
It's going to make more mistakes.
And you raise a very important question. Who feeds it? That's very important. And here we see a lot of bias in different directions, and also non-transparency. But it's really important to know. I think the bias problem is really a problem we didn't solve yet. There will always be a bias because it's based on historic data, and is bias in historic data. What is data? Data is information, and that's very old. That's as old as human beings. So there's always bias, and it would only be without bias if we had all the perspectives in the world.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. But and one other note, I know we don't have much more time, but one other thing I wanted to talk about was the rights, right?
Yeah.
So they just came out. So the I don't know what it's like where you are, but the Copyright Office in the US came out with a ruling because somebody took something, they created something with AI, and they tried to copyright it. And the Copyright Office said, no, you can't copyright it. But they didn't say if it was in the public domain. They didn't say who owned it. And I guess it's still up in the air. They're still trying to figure it out. But from my perspective, if I wrote the prompt, it's a tool. It created something. I have the copyright. What do you think about it?
That's right.
You agree?
I also think so. Yes, I agree. I agree. Because it's useless without the right question or the right prompt.
Yeah.
It didn't spit it out just like that. So
oh, see, now you're making me think I should try a recursive thing where what if I gave you a prompt? Can you create your own prompt? Here, create a prompt that would write a story that would do XYZ.
I think people tried that. I think I read about something like that.
And did it just say, no, I can't do that?
I think then they listed the prompts or something like that. But I didn't look into it in detail if it was good or not. But I think they tried it, like, what would be a good prompt?
Right.
But I don't know how good it worked.
So would you say that ChatGPT is a RedSwan?
No.
No.
As I said, what's the big deal? It's a huge language program. It's not the first of its kind. What I wanted to say about the media hype. Media needs sensational stories.
Absolutely.
So you have this, I've seen it many times, and it's always overhyped. And you always have to question what's the motivation for the story. What does the author want you to believe? That's a healthy way to read news.
Yeah.
By the way, always question what do they want? Not like this is the facts. News do not write about facts because it's always curated content.
Exactly.
You always have to pick, like every day there would be so many news, you have to pick something you want to report on. And so it's already a choice. It's already a choice. And then, of course, how do you write the story? How do you emphasize things? It's not facts. News are not facts. So
exactly. And the other thing I like to say about the news is that the one thing people forget about it is that it's the news because it hardly ever happens. Right? If it happened all the time, it wouldn't be news. It
wouldn't be news.
But because it's reported over and over and over again, people get the impression that it happens all the time.
Exactly.
So, and of course, it's always negative because we all respond to negative cues more than we respond to positive cues, which is unfortunate.
Yes, but that's how you tell a story, right? You always have a conflict. And just imagine the movie Titanic. Everyone gets on board, they cross the ocean, get off.
Nothing happens. Nobody would watch that, right?
Nobody would watch that. It's not the story. You need an obstacle. And here we have the biggest obstacle in movie history, the iceberg, right?
Yeah.
So in every story, you need an iceberg.
That's right. So, there's got to be an iceberg. Without an iceberg, there's no story.
Exactly. So they, in the case of AI, now you have to make something out of ChatGPT. But it's not so interesting if it's just say, well, it's a huge language model. Now we have some real progress. It's a useful tool. That's not a story, right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So you have to say, oh my God, it will steal all our jobs.
That's right.
Our conscience. And it will destroy humanity. So this is a story. I totally get it, but it's not factual.
Yeah, it's not real. It's not real. But since when have the news dealt in reality, right?
Exactly. And this is also since it was there is no independent journalism. the way it was founded was not independent. Maybe a very short period of time when Gutenberg invented the printing press, very short period of time, it was like that everyone now could publish something, and then came the big money guys.
That's right, and everything changed. Companies. Money changes everything.
Yes. So you have to follow the money. I always explain that to clients in Austria. We have like two main donors for the media. One is on the conservative side, and one is on the other side, which is the same. But just it's very easy to know what these media will write and what these media will write. Very easy to know. But I think very, very bad thing, like with all the online thing, media now just take the agency press releases, the agency news.
There's no thought whatsoever. It just goes straight out the door.
Exactly, it goes straight. Of course,
everyone's so lazy now.
Yeah, exactly. And it was always the case. Like that's when you are not lazy as a PR agent, you can post a lot of stories, because if you write it in a good way, they just take it. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. This has been great. We'll definitely have to have another show. This is all this new stuff we're talking about. So it's awesome.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much.
Great.
Talk to you soon. All right. Bye.
Bye.